Welcome back to Interview with Mike Billiot. Today, I'm talking with Terrebonne Parish Councilman Kevin Voisin. We were talking before the break about you being the Vice President of Marketing for Motivated Seafood. What exactly does Motivated Seafood do?
Sure. Motivated Seafood is a vertically integrated oyster processing company. So we have about 12,000 acres of water bottoms that we farm. It's called a farm. I mean, even though oysters are an animal, they don't move, so they act a lot more like a plant than they do an animal. So we plant oysters in places, they grow and reproduce, and then we harvest them, very much like a farmer does. We've got a 12,000 acre farm throughout South Louisiana. Those beds are spread from as far west as Southwest Pass over in Iberia or Vermilion Parish, and as far east as the Louisiana border with Mississippi.
But your headquarters and administrative offices are right here in Houma.
Right here in Houma. We do all our processing right here in Houma. We have one of the most advanced pieces of food processing technology in the world. The first commercial installation for ultra-high pressure processing of foods was here in Houma, Louisiana. I mean, that's a phenomenal fact. We were the first commercial installation. Companies like Minute Maid, Hormel, and a whole host of others use this technology routinely now, but it started here in Houma.
We're going to talk in a moment about the British Petroleum oil spill. But what effect has the oil spill had on Motivated Seafood and you directly in the seafood industry?
You know, I think the most abrupt effect to everyone has been the psychological impact of seeing that, you know, we're starting to question what does it mean to be Cajun, and can you have Louisiana without seafood, and is this going to affect the seafood? Certainly a lot of oyster areas have been closed down. We're running below capacity. We're very fortunate. Our farms are mostly north and west, which means our farms will be the last to have oil impacts. So far we've been able to keep things going. We're very hopeful that we'll survive this and that we'll be able to go through. I would say that we're positioned well enough that in Louisiana anyway, we should be the last company to fall based on the positioning of our farms, which is just fortunate. I mean, obviously you can't plan for something like this oil spill disaster. It's brought a tremendous amount of stress. It's got my father is very influential in the industry and in the nation, not just the seafood, not just the oyster industry, but in the seafood industry, and with Congress. He's made several trips to D.C. to try and lobby in behalf of the different oyster companies here. Very much we feel an obligation to help those who've been shut down, because this is just not okay. Our #1 competition in processed oysters is Ameripure Oysters out of Franklin. They closed down last week. It just shouldn't be that way. You know, you would think I'd be happy our competition closed, but not like this. It's not okay.
Now, what about your employees? How many employees do you have, and has your employees, have they been affected?
Yeah,
have you had to fire anyone?
Absolutely. We carry about 100 employees at the plant. We have not had to do any layoffs, although we have had a system where we're not hiring people who leave. You know, as this oil spill cleanup comes, some people are able to secure a little bit better paying job. Oyster laborer is pretty much an entry-level position. We understand people are going to come in and move out. So we haven't had to lay anyone off to this point, which is great. We have not replaced people who've left. We normally carry about 100 people. Right now we're probably more about 60 people working in the plant. But it's important to understand that there's also people who work on the boats that aren't direct employees, but they're employed because of what we do at the plant. So before this oil spill, there's about 200 families that eat off of the activities that happen at Motivated Seafoods.
Now, in 2000 is when you came back to this area. Did you have any plans at that point to run for public office or
no. To that point, I mean, I've always paid attention to politics and always had an interest. I mean, history is the study of politics of the past when you really look at it. So I've always had a keen interest in politics, but I didn't see myself as doing that. When I was young, my grandfather had been the police jury president. My political experience up to 2000 was at 5 years old. We took some pictures on Last Island that ended up being his campaign posters, and that was my entire aspiration. But as I came here and I saw, you know, I've been really blessed to be able to travel the world. I mean, I've traveled to 5 of the 7 continents of the world. I've traveled to dozens of countries throughout those continents. I speak another language. I've lived outside of Louisiana, even in the USA. Now that's taught me 2 things. One, that there are different ways to do things, but number 2, that this is the best place in the world. You know, I was constantly reminded of what a great place Louisiana is and what great people we are here in Louisiana.